they told me that before going on a project to Saudi Arabia, I need to grow some beard because otherwise, for some reason,
Too clean
I think
cut,
they
huh?
have yeah. So I used to have I used to be the clean shaved, and this is the
Yeah.
time where I started wearing a beard. Because apparently back in the days in their culture, in order to be perceived as a grown up, you need to have like a facial hair, be it a goatee or a mustache or anything like that. So yeah, this is when I started.
Obviously, that stayed
started
with
to
you
wear
because
beard.
you've got a good looking beard right now.
I did. Thanks a lot.
That's Michael Fisher, founder of startup Cooper Pet Care, which is an innovative service for parents who own pets, pet parents. And it allows them to connect to certified veterinarians via video call instantly. But before he launched Cooper Pet Care, Michael held roles at Proctor Gamble, BCG, Uber, and Lime. In this conversation, he shares with us things he learned from a marketing research perspective at these companies and a crazy experience he had when launching Lime in Austria. I'll give you a hint. Hackers took control of the fleet of scooters, Lime scooters. It sounds like a crazy story, right? But it really did happen. Anyway, this is a fun conversation you don't want to miss. And quick note before we dive in, I recently launched the Innovators Can Laugh podcast network. It's the first media network that gathers leading marketing and entrepreneurial related podcasts and newsletters under one umbrella, therefore making it very easy to do group sponsorship ad buys instead of individual ad buys, and your brand can be featured among trusted industry leaders and influencers. Okay, if you want to learn more, just go to innovatorscanlaugh.com. All right, and now let's jump into the conversation with Michael. Hey, Michael, it's a pleasure to have you here on Innovators Can Laugh. How are you doing today?
I'm not too bad. Thanks a lot, Eric. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting.
Yeah, absolutely. First question I want to know about you, Michael, is what was your first pet as a kid?
My first pet as a kid was a dog, and it was a huge one. It's called Caucasian Shepherd, and if you Google, it looks like a bear. I think it weighed like 70 or 80 kilograms. It was a girl. We called her Zola. I don't know how I managed to walk her because she was bigger than me in size. But that's when my love for pets came to be. And after that, I have many other pets.
70 or 80 kilograms. I'm trying to put
It's
this
a huge
in
one.
pounds. That's more than 150 pounds. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a human's full grown up man size. But it's one of those big breeds like Saint Bernard, Great Danes. So yeah, just Google it, Caucasian Shepherd.
Yeah, I'm sure the grocery bill alone was at least maybe $100 a week. This probably wasn't a vegetarian dog, right?
No, of course not. And the amount of poop that we need to clean up was also quite big.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, if that dog starts humping somebody's leg, I mean, they can't get away.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah. But I love her to death. I absolutely love her to death. And she lived with us for 13 years, which for this specific breed is like an insane amount of years. They usually, their life expectancy is around 8 to 10 years. So yeah, she was a really happy dog.
Did you guys have any break-ins, any burglaries during that time?
I mean, no, obviously we didn't. And maybe it's because of her, but I wouldn't know. Maybe like I would have bigger problems if somebody broke into our house because, this is a shepherd dog. So they're trained to protect the house. So yeah, they would just go for it. The Caucasian Shepherd also is a very specific breed that shepherds use to, protect their herd. And the dog is like trained or has an instinct to go and kill wolves. So this dog can fight a pack of wolves. So it's a really, really strong and powerful dog.
Oh my God. Okay, I got to look this dog up after we get off this interview. I'm not really afraid of dogs. There was one time where I walked into, a friend took me to his friend's house and we were hanging out and I walked in and I didn't know he owned a dog and it was this huge Rottweiler. And the way the dog looked at me, I was scared. I was like stunned. I was frozen and I tried to not show fear, but the dog knew instinctively that I was a little scared, and so did his owner. And his owner was like telling him, calm down, boy, or whatever, just stay here, boy, or whatever. But that was the only time I almost shit in my pants from a dog. But I'm sure you probably met a lot of people that were scared in there.
Of course. And some breeds have a bad reputation, specifically pit bulls. They're even banned in some countries. But it's never about the dog. it's always about the owner, right? So there's no trouble dogs. There are owners that can't handle the powerful breeds.
Yeah,
That's my
absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, well, we're going to get into Cooper Pet Care in just a second, but I was looking at your background, and you probably have, I would say, the nicest pedigree background in terms of career. You started off at Procter Gamble. I mean, that is like the hallmark of marketing, at least in the States it is. And you were there a couple of years, and then you went to Uber, and then you were, before Uber, I think you were at BCG. My wife used to work at BCG. So
nice.
You have all these great companies that you worked for. What did you learn from working at Procter & Gamble? What was the biggest thing you learned from each of these companies? And let's just really focus on three here. P&G.
Yeah, definitely.
BCG, and that's Boston Consulting Group for those listening. And then, of course, Uber.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I do have, this kind of background that is currently more or less typical for the founder, say, ex-consultant and then ex-high growth company. I started my career at Procter & Gamble. It was a pure coincidence how I got there, but I got there nevertheless. And I was working in something that was back in the days called CMK, Consumer Market Knowledge. And it was basically a marketing research. So we were kind of in-house consulting for the marketing people in Procter & Gamble. So let's say, you're a marketing person at Procter & Gamble, and you own several brands, and the sales kind of don't go as well as you would want it to do, and you need to understand why, so you deploy us to that. And so the thing that I learned at Procter & Gamble is literally the consumer understanding and consumer perception of the product, because I can tell you a funny story about that.
Go ahead.
So we used to have this cleaning product that was called Mr. Proper, where I was from. I think in the rest of the world, it was called Mr. Clean for floors. Yep. And what we saw is that, in our country, the sales were nowhere near our peers, and we wanted to understand that. So we went ahead and do the focus group. And the way the focus group works is that it's literally in the police department. So there's people on one side, and there is this mirror type of thing, and we're sitting behind it and, watching them answer the question.
Yeah.
So apparently, through the conversation, we found out that the people didn't use it because there were a lot of wooden floors, and people just were afraid that it's chemical that will destroy the wooden floors, even though it wouldn't. And, taking this insight, what we did a little bit of trick. So we just changed the packaging a little bit, and we added a coloring to that. So it was a brown. And we named it Mr. Proper for wooden floors. So the formula didn't change. Nothing changed, just the color, etc. And it solved the problem. So apparently and a lot of times the product might be good. It's just the perception of it and how you sell it to consumer. How do you work with, their needs and their fears and those kind of things. So,
you created a placebo for it, and that placebo just had that impact. It is good for wooden floors. Done.
No, I mean, in reality, there's one way to do is just to educate the market and, launch a huge marketing campaign telling everyone that, Mr. Proper does not damage wooden floors, etc. But the shortcut is that, right? So you just rebranded a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Good story. Good story. Any other stories from BCG when you were a management consultant for them?
BCG is obviously a school of life, and I'm super grateful that I've been there for many, many years. There were many projects that have been around. One of the most notorious one is that we've been doing the cement strategy for the whole country of Saudi Arabia. So we're flying there, meeting, Prince, King, and all of that stuff. But generally, BCG is absolutely great in terms of structuring. It's teaching you how to think. It's all about structure, hypothesis testing, and those kind of things. So it clears your mind and allows you to tackle the problem that you wouldn't do otherwise.
Yeah. Do you remember anything from the Saudi Arabia project? Anything that you guys advised them on?
Well, I can't disclose it because it's obviously, NDA and everything. But the funny thing is that we were doing that at the time where Saudi Arabia was still closed to most of the world, so you couldn't get like a tourist visa or anything like that. So we had to go through work visas, even though it was a temporary assignment. But I remember the very funny thing about that is that, it's a very culturally different country. And they told me that before going on a project to Saudi Arabia, I need to grow some beard because otherwise, for some reason,
too clean cut.
So I used to be the clean shaved, and this is the time when I started wearing a beard. Because apparently back in the days in their culture, in order to be perceived as a grown up, you need to have like a facial hair, be it a goatee or a mustache or anything like that. So yeah, this is when I started.
Obviously that stayed with you because you've got a good looking beard right now.
I did. Thanks a lot. Yeah. And it's easier. You don't have to, shave every day. It was a blessing in disguise.
Actually, absolutely. How much time saved right there? That was an easy, 5 minutes a day right there saved.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, cool. And then you were at Uber and then of course, Lyft, but you can just share one example from either of those companies. By the way, I love Lyft. I ride the scooter here whenever I can. And it makes me feel about 20 years younger when I'm here in Bucharest. Yeah. I'm just riding through the neighborhood and the streets. And I tell people, it's like, I could probably walk it. It's going to just take me 5 minutes walk. But if there's a Lyft there, I don't mind taking it because it's pure pleasure for me. It makes me feel young again.
It does.
I'm the opposite of you, Michael. You're growing the beard. I'm over here riding the scooter.
doesn't mean the beard doesn't mean that I'm not like, we're all big kids, right? Trapped in a grown man body. No, I mean, obviously the Uber and Lime experience was the experience of the hyper growth startups. And this is something that taught me, I would say, self-esteem, because I literally remember when we were launching Lime. So I joined Lime and my first assignment was to launch Austria. And I literally just bought a plane ticket and went there and, found out what to do on the ground. So it teaches you how to build something out of nothing. I mean, obviously you have, a bigger team in San Francisco behind you with, software, and then the scooters get shipped, but you are the one there alone trying to figure out, where to rent a warehouse, where to find, mechanics and operations managers, etc. And another thing that it taught me is that nothing ever goes along the plan. This super weird story where we deployed, those first scooters in Vienna, in Austria. Huh? And, after 6 or 8 hours, it's started to most of the scooters started to go offline. So you see 10% of the fleet goes offline, 20% offline, meaning that we lost signal, right? So we don't know where they are. It doesn't communicate. Okay. And, so we obviously jumped on calls with San Francisco, etc., and started to investigate. It was the weirdest story, but apparently somebody hacked the fleet and they were using the computer chip that is in scooter to mine Bitcoins, believe it or not.
What?
It was the time where the Bitcoin craze was high and you needed a lot of computing power. So they literally just hacked it and used our fleet of scooters. And, there were thousands of them as one big computer to do those calculations to mine Bitcoins. And because of that, it exhausted all of the data because each scooter had some kind of limit in terms of gigabytes that it could send back to the server. And they just, maxed it out and the scooters went offline. So there you go. There are crazy people like that.
Did it take a long time retrieving all the scooters? Because if you couldn't locate them, that was like a scavenger hunt, I imagine.
Yeah. So it didn't really take a long time, but we had to work, through the night. We couldn't wait until the morning to pick them up, or the next day we had to go immediately. And, the last location and you start looking for it. I think we retrieved the most of them.
Yeah, were you like, San Francisco, we have a problem? Had the headquarters ever seen anything like that? Had that occurred at another city before?
I think this was the very first time it occurred. And, props to San Francisco team that they immediately plugged in the hotfix so it couldn't happen again. But, it's just a super weird story how people can be creative. So to say.
That is super creative. Did they catch him?
I don't know, to be honest with you. It's probably hard to do. I'm pretty sure, it was anonymous and everything. So probably not. But yeah, that's that.
That's a crazy story. Wow. Wow. And yeah, Uber's amazing. I think the greatest, benefit of having Uber is just simply seeing like where the cars are and knowing the estimated time of pickup. To me, that's just genius. To me, that is the product. Okay. So you're at Uber, you're at Lyft, you've had all this great experience, this great exposure building things, launching things, doing stuff that nobody, is like, hey, we need this to happen. And you're trying to figure out things to make it happen. What was the inspiration behind Cooper Pet Care? And when did you have that light bulb moment? Had it been like many years ago and you thought about it and you thought, hey, I'm upset nobody's doing this yet? Or was it like something that happened recently?
Yeah, no, I again, I think like Uber and Lime experience taught me that, the founders who people start companies are not like some geniuses. It's just, people who have the gut and courage to go and try it out. And I kind of, always kind of were brewing inside of me. And I remember that I had this experience with my particular dog. He started to develop some allergic reaction. And, I didn't really know what to do about it because it was the first time I kind of faced it. And it was Friday night, like 10 p.m. or something like that. Most of the vets were closed. So I had to go to emergency. And I paid, I think, 300 euros for a visit because it's emergency, just to hear, that it's a very simple allergic reaction and it's pass on its own. And it did.
Okay.
And this was the time. And I remember I was talking to this vet. I was like, well, if we had a video call or something like that before me coming here, would you be able to tell me the same? And she was like, yeah, absolutely. So, and this is the time when it kind of struck me that actually in a lot of the times, the simple things can be treated or advised online without going to the vet, spending a lot of money, spending a lot of time. And I just researched the market and saw that nobody was doing that. And, that was the time. So I joined an accelerator program called Antler. I found a co-founder and we just started building it.
When was this, Michael?
We started it in 2022. So we were very, very recent.
Oh, wow. Okay. This is last year.
Yep.
All right. Okay. The accelerator, what did you learn from the accelerator? I mean, was there anything? You have this tremendous background. Was there something new or different that you didn't think of before, but you got through from the accelerator?
Accelerator taught me one thing that I didn't learn anywhere else, and it's specifically fundraising. How to talk to investors, what are they looking for, etc. Because those are the things that you don't learn now at, Uber, Lime, unless you're in a fundraising team. So that was a very, very specific experience that I lacked. And that was the main reason why I joined.
Yeah. No, I lacked that experience too when I launched a nonprofit and I just, started writing grants and rejection after rejection after rejection. And looking back, it would have been better if I had spent some time getting to know people and build relationships before taking all that time just to submit like a code grant application. And so that was my failure back then. Any tips that you can share with, with the audience? We've got a lot of startup founders and people who are thinking about starting startups when it comes to fundraising.
Don't be afraid. Again, my tip is that it doesn't take a genius to start a company. You don't need to be, absolutely brilliant or have a, skyrocket scores. It's just that. So in my opinion, the entrepreneurship is not about being like, super smart or extremely smart. The entrepreneurship is about having courage to start, fail, and try again. And it's all about that. So go try it out. There's really not much downside. If you fail, you can always restart or, join the job, etc.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about getting your first users and the first people to test the product and give you feedback? Like, how did you go about that process?
Yeah, it was, we followed the pretty standard kind of thing when it comes to startups. So we tested all the hypotheses before that. So initially we launched an MVP, which is minimum viable product that wasn't really working, to be honest with you. And there was just advertising what it would be, what it would do. And we put it out there online, poured a little bit of online traffic on it and gathered the waiting list, right?
Okay.
People who signed up, they were like, we're interested, etc. Once we actually launched the product, there was the first cohort of users. So the people who saw the MVP and wanted to use it. So they signed up pretty much immediately. And I still remember the first transaction that came through the platform. We were, opening the champagne and super happy.
And was it easy getting doctors to get on board, veterinarians?
It took a bit of, recruiting effort here and there. And we were looking for very specific vets that want to join us, that are there, relief or on sabbatical or anything like that. A lot of people don't know that veterinarians are extremely stressed. So it's one of the most stressful jobs out there.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we don't talk about enough is that how this stress results in some bad things. So a lot of people don't know that a veterinarian is 3 times likely to end his or her life through a suicide than general public, because they work through a lot of stress, a lot of hours, etc. So we came to the vets with a proposition of, well, you know what? You can take some time off from your regular vet job that is super stressful and, work from home, work your hours, etc. and still, get a money. And, we got our initial team of the vets and we launched it. One of our vets was living on a boat because she was going through sabbatical.
Yeah.
So those kind of interesting things.
Yeah. What is the business model? You don't have to go into too much detail, but I'm just curious, what does that look like? Do people just pay like an extra fee every time they use it, like a one-time charge, and then some of the kickback goes to the veterinarian? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the business model is as you described it, is pretty much a marketplace where we connect people who need an advice from licensed veterinarian with the licensed veterinarian who know what they're talking about, right? So it's fairly simple. And indeed, we, as a user, you can choose whether you want a single consultation and pay for single consultation, or you can also go for a monthly subscription. That includes unlimited consultations, but it's going to be a monthly subscription. And so we pay the vets. Well, I'm not going to get into details of that, but fair wages.
Is it a little bit cheaper than going to in person to a veterinarian for the user?
Yeah, it definitely is cheaper. And the main reason for that is that, we don't have those overheads. We don't have real estate that we need to rent. We don't have all the register, the receptionist, all of those things. So it makes things cheaper. But also it is important to note that we cannot handle everything, right? So our success rate is around 75 to 80% of the cases. So in 75 to 80% of the cases, actually help people understand, what's going on and how.
That's still high, Michael. That's still very
that's still
high.
Yeah. Well, because we deal with kind of simple stuff. But if your dog got a broken bone, you have to go to the vet, obviously. And in some cases, we'll literally just say, look, it is an emergency. Go to the vet now. So we are not trying to replace vet clinic. We are adjacent to the vet clinic in a sense that we are replacing Dr. Google, so to say. Because, when you don't know what's happening with your dog or cat, a lot of people try to Google. The Google is great because it's here and there and it's free, but it's notoriously unreliable because you don't know, where the content is coming from. So we're giving you this extra reliability because you're talking to a licensed veterinarian who has been through school, who has been through multiple years of experience. But we can't treat a broken bone or anything like that. So we're, a natural first step when you're trying to understand, what's going on with your dog or cat. Is it like serious symptom or not? Do you need to apply home remedy or need to go to clinic, etc.?
Yeah, I'm still amazed that you guys launched this last year and already you're in the market and you have users and people are using it.
Yep.
Now, how did you guys move so quickly and were able to get traction and also get the platform working? Was there any sort of anything that helped to shortcut your decision making as you moved forward and made progress?
Yeah, well, I think a couple of things. So I've been multiple startups and I've been in a startup culture for a while. So, we're doing a very fast iteration. So, you'll MVP something, then you launch the product, then you take the user experience and you iterate very fast. On the technical side, I have to give props to my co-founder, who's the CTO, and he's an experienced entrepreneur. He previously built a company that he sold to a bigger player. So he has already a team that he worked with, and they just like a well-oiled machine that can produce stuff very, very quickly. So without him and his team, it wouldn't be possible. So co-founder is important. That's another thing for the people out there. It's much, much harder to build a startup as a solo enterprise. It's always better to join forces with somebody.
I believe it. What was one of the key hires that you guys made early on, if you have made any new hires yet?
I mean, obviously there's an engineering team, but it was fairly easy because those are the people who used to work with my co-founder in his previous company. Yeah, there's obviously a veterinarians that we work with and a marketing department / customer support.
Okay.
But again, like we are the marketplace, so we're asset light. So we don't need huge amount of people to get it work.
Okay.
We are there just to connect people with the veterinarians, vice versa.
Entirely bootstrapped right now, Michael, or have you guys taken any investment?
No, we've raised investment in 2022 from various funds, including Antler, but some other VC funds and business angels. It's a small amount, so it's less than 1 million euros.
Okay.
But yeah, we are ultimately VC-backed business.
All right. Okay. So what is your biggest goal for this year? I mean, there's about, I guess you would say 5 good months left. Anything that you guys are trying to achieve right now?
Yeah. So obviously wanted growing the user base and iterating on the product to make it better. But another thing that we are working on right now is to expand the offering, and particularly we want to expand into pet insurance because we strongly believe that pets should have a right to health insurance as humans do. And specifically like in the Netherlands where we live, every human has a health insurance that just, saves you a lot of money, a lot of hassle. So yeah, we're working on launching our own insurance plan and hopefully it's going to go live.
All right. Okay. So we're going to get into, one last question here. Cooper Pet Care. What came up? Why Cooper Pet Care? Why that name?
Yeah, because Max Pet Care was not available, and Max is the number one dog name, the most popular dog name, and the Cooper is the second most popular dog name in the world. So that's why.
Max is my dad's name. I didn't know that tidbit.
So yeah, when it comes to the dog names, Max is number one for boys and Luna is number one for girls.
Bula?
Luna.
Luna. Oh, Luna. Okay. I didn't know that. Okay. Any plans to expand internationally and go outside the Netherlands?
We'll see how it goes. I mean, obviously, we're seeing ourselves as at least pan-European companies. So we want to expand in other European countries. We'll see about states, not in the shorter terms, but, mid to long term, why not?
Yeah. All right. Let's get into rapid fire here. Give me the first answer that comes to your mind, Michael.
Oh, yeah, that's scary. But okay,
all right. What is a funny reason why you would be asking for an additional $10 million for additional investment from your investors?
A funny reason.
A funny reason, yes.
To test things. Whenever you talk to an investor, I'm very honest and I'm like, look, I can write you a business plan that shows you a hockey stick growth, etc. But the reality is I don't know. So we want to test it. So we want to test this or that or this.
Okay. Second question for you. How did you drive an old roommate nuts? If you ever had a roommate before?
Oh, unfortunately, I never had a roommate, believe it or not.
Okay. Girlfriend, maybe? Yeah. Partner?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, girlfriend. How did I drive her nuts? I mean, the typical stuff, right? So throwing my socks around the apartment and not picking them up.
Okay. Okay. Instead of a fear of failure, you have a fear of blank.
A fear of not doing, a fear of being paralyzed by fear of failure and not doing any.
Okay. What is a TV show that you can watch again and again?
The last one is Ted Lasso. Absolutely love this show, but generally Silicon Valley by HBO.
Yeah. I need to go back and watch the last season. I never saw the last season. I'm glad you reminded me.
I watched the whole show like 3 times already.
Those characters are like so...
Yeah.
They couldn't have picked like a better character for each one. It's
so perfect. On point. So on
yeah.
point. But yeah, as I said, the recent one is Ted Lasso. It's absolutely a great show.
I've heard it is. I don't really use Apple, but I've heard it's a great show, so I should check it out.
It's an amazing show because it was made by the creators of Scrubs, if you watched this show back in the days. So it mixes the, comedy with the drama. Very interesting.
Okay. Yeah, I need to check it out. Last question for you. Yep. Members of the social elite are paying thousands of dollars just to experience Michael's blank.
$1,000, Michael. I would say, courage or being fearless, but it borderlines with stupidity. There's a very fine line between being a courage and stupid. So yeah, that's that.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Michael, for coming on Innovators Can Laugh. Everybody
Thank you.
listening, I hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to put links to Cooper Pet Care and to Michael's LinkedIn profile in the show notes and on the ICO website. And we'll be back next again with another European startup founder. And if you enjoyed this, feel free to subscribe on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube and tell others about it. I had a great time chatting with Michael. I learned which dog breed wolves are afraid of, the Caucasian Shepherd. I learned that hackers can hack into scooters and use their computing power to mine Bitcoin. And I learned that entrepreneurs are not some kind of superheroes. As Michael said, they are people just like you and me who have the ability to get back on their feet after they failed. And if you want to learn more about Michael, just go to cooperpetcare.com. Links to all of this are in the show notes. Thank you to Michael for being on the show. If you like this episode, send me a note on LinkedIn and subscribe on YouTube, Apple, or Spotify. And don't forget, I recently launched the Innovators Can Laugh podcast media network. It's created for and hosted by marketing and B2B industry leaders. It's the first media network that gathers leading marketing and entrepreneur-related podcasts and newsletters under one umbrella, therefore making it a lot easier for SaaS companies to reach a large audience, grow their brand and authority among trusted industry influencers. You can learn more at innovatorscanlaugh.com. See you next week.